Good afternoon, and I think we are having this session with strong tea, coffee, whatever it was. So I think but I am quite energized after seeing session from Professor Abhay, and we were outside just discussing how technology is shaping healthcare. This has already been the scene, but the pace which we are seeing now, AI coming in, automated things happening, and health becoming a holistic health. It is not just like going to hospital or doing some kind of x-ray pathology. It's a holistic well-being which is now being at the center of this stage. And today's topic also naturally value-based care model, not just a treatment. Like you have some problem, you get a x-ray done, you ultrasound done, and that problem is solved. That's not the case now. I think patients are also looking at value-based, how in totality, how in holistic well-being can be done through care. So today is this topic, and I think Dr. Abhay really started well, and we are all very excited to hear from me on AI. So maybe I'll take a liberty to take the first question from Dr. Abhay. How AI can help healthcare providers to in terms of optimizing the this holistic health cycle.
So healthcare is a huge opportunity for everyone who's in healthcare today. And we need to understand one of the power that we have, and that we are the largest provider of medical manpower globally. I'm yet to go to a country where I didn't see an Indian doctor. And given that we all train in India, we have tremendous experience out here. To me, the future of health lies in India. India can actually leverage the technology fast to become the global healthcare provider. And when I say provision, you need to understand that healthcare has three distinct stages. The first is evaluation stage, which we can globalize. The second stage is actually about doing things when you call intervention, which is about doing your endoscopies, your bronchoscopies, or your surgery. That we can do in India. So a massive boost for medical tourism, especially as we can overcome the language barrier. And the third is upskilling, because as we train people, we also can start putting our projects in all the other countries in the world where we can upskill their local people to do what we call as follow-up or restitutive care. So to me, AI is now at the verge, and what I didn't tell you is that the bot has now evolved enough to when he makes a diagnosis, he automatically can call the ambulance. He can call your next of kin. He can tell them that this is what's wrong and this is the time duration in which you have to reach. So everything that we previously thought was human is now doable by technology.
Yeah, thanks, Dr. Abhay. And we have a esteemed panelist from Indian Institute of Sciences also. So maybe I will request Dr. Uma to throw some light on how AI maybe change the future of healthcare delivery from healthcare provider perspective, and how it will impact the patient. So maybe if some thoughts can be shared.
Yeah. So we have to, I mean, although I understand the entire excitement around the digital technology and AI, and in some of the things, I also feel that we are putting the cart before the horse, because at least in our country, if you really look at what the ground realities are, and I'm not just speaking of rural India, I'm speaking of the entire country, having worked in almost all sectors, government, private, rural, and urban areas, and now in a research institute, I understand that we need to walk the path very judiciously. There is a tremendous scope of automating tasks which are, in a sense, inorganic, like pattern recognition. Very easily done. You can gain tremendous advantage of it. And if I was to just take this example alone in India, what is happening, I agree that a lot of machines today will give you automatic first report on what the lesions is likely to be and all of that stuff. But look at the data from India. Look at what the National Health Authority has data from ABDM. We have the recordings, I mean, those just simple X-ray chest. Because at IISc, we are doing the predictions. We are actually creating data sets out of those X-ray images. I want to tell you that if you want to do AI, you need to have good data. No data, no AI. So that's number one. We don't record data correctly. After having data, you need to have data sets. you need to have data sets which are relevant to our Indian population. So having said that, there is not a single data set on which all the AI algorithms are made, at least out of India. What are we using? Open source data sets which are available for sale. Okay, including the Indian scientists who are doing AI algorithms work are using open source data sets from abroad. So if we try to extrapolate that data and use it for Indian population, it is likely to be incorrect. So let's walk this path carefully, let's understand, and let's do it in a very scientific and rational manner. I fully agree with Dr. Abhay as to the potential of what this can do for us. But potential is one thing, but to reach that potential, what are the steps that we have to take? We need to be extremely careful. And that's why I say, don't put the cart before the horse. Take your steps carefully.
Very valuable insight. And I think, as rightly said, AI can do wonders. But again, it depends upon the quality of data, how data is collected, and interoperability between the data. So I think that is very important. And healthcare, yeah, maybe, ma'am, please add up a point.
I mean, I would just want to add a point from a doctor's perspective.
Yeah,
I
that's
think
correct.
AI is great. We know how it can benefit us. But we have to remember it's an add-on and not a replacement. You cannot replace the doctor-patient relationship. I think the core of treatment of patients is the doctor-patient relationship. If I do not I cannot trust an AI bot, I will trust a human end of the day, as a patient. So I think that factor we have to remember. So it's a great tool which can help us, I think, reach people where there is no healthcare. But then again, we have to, I think as ma'am rightly said, it has to be done in the right way, that we can collect that data to, utilize AI in the right way. But again, I think we have to remember it's a tool, not a replacement. I think I would just want to add that.
No, very well said. And I think you all use helplines, maybe from the banking institutes and all. And now those are getting automated, and sometimes it is helpful and sometimes it is very frustrating. It doesn't recognize your voice. It doesn't recognize your response. So you get a lot of frustration. As she mentioned, if there is a human on the other end, we are very patient and they listen and act based on our query. So obviously human is human, and there is a lot of debate between whether human can, AI can replace humans or not. But I think personally think it is far. AI can be a very good tool, as ma'am mentioned, that it can add on to the delivery in a big way. So I was just discussing with Dr. Upasana ma'am, and she mentioned we all know she has opened a new hospital, and congratulations on that. And it's a very good setup. And she mentioned a word like digital hospital. I think now I was really thrilled to see So maybe my next question is around how, as a provider, maybe we can develop more of digital health solution like telemedicine we saw in COVID time. So how do you see digital can help in terms of delivering a holistic healthcare while maintaining the trust, which ma'am also mentioned. Trust is very important in healthcare.
So I always speak about this, that human touch and doctor's touch, nobody can take away from us, because we start feeling healed when our doctor is keeping hand on our head. But unfortunately, these days, this is not in practice. After Corona, it's actually physicians are not touching patients, which is not good. So I am trying to start everything again, that there has to be a human touch. But same time, digital access of hospital, you can take appointment online, you can pay online, then you can get all the reports online. And when you are reaching to the hospital, lots of things, like if you don't want to stand in queue, you can generate your own receipt through QR. So there are many things which we can do through digital, and that is why there are many other things which we are putting in our hospital, because we have adopted digital health standard of NABH. And we are the only hospital in Uttar Pradesh who is platinum certified. So, and we are part of ABDM also. My hospital is compliant with ABDM. So I think that it's high time to move into the digital thing. But same time, as my colleague said, that no one can take place of a doctor. But we can help, there are many things which hospital doesn't want that human being should do, or they don't want to put more money in this, like your panel department. There are many things which are actually same. You have to process few papers and you are supposed to put papers in a row. these things, if you are having good system, they can do it for you. But when there is a thing which is related to patient safety, like I am doing robotic surgery in my hospital, and my program is going so well. So now Intuitive has made my new hospital as a training center for Southeast Asia. But, training is very much important for that doctor who is doing this robotic surgery. And why I have chosen Intuitive, because they were having the most data, because they are in this field from last 15 or 18 years. And there are many new companies who are coming. So data is very important. Digital health is very important. And we should adopt, as Dr. Chopra said, you have to, adopt everything on time. Otherwise, aap piche hi reh jaoge.
Very valuable insight, Dr. Upasana. Maybe I'll request Dr. Raj also to add on, because his chain is predominantly in Lucknow, and very different psychology, very different customer. So trust again comes up. So how digital you think Dr. Raj can play a role?
Actually, a little bit about my group. We are into lots of things. Maybe we are on one side of the wall. We are a hospital chain. We also have a diagnostic chain. We also in retail pharmacy and pharmaceutical manufacturing marketing. So the other side of the wall is the payer. We don't pay, somebody else pays for it, either the patient or the payer. Now, how do you digital? I think ma'am briefly touched on ABDM, compliance. I think that's one of the things that can change the game in India. If actually, we were just discussing with Dr. Chopra also, where the banks have done this, where, he was explaining how the banks have integrated their data and then become successful on their own because they've integrated data. I think ABDM is one of the key elements that can make this change in India. And when we speak to, we are ABDM compliant as a hospital and as a diagnostic chain also. Once you get onto ABDM, it's like UPI. Everybody is in a marketplace, and the data is common. So if you have a patient who is visiting my hospital and then moves to Delhi from Lucknow, they have all the data that they can move from my hospital to Delhi. Once we get that data, organized, then as ma'am was saying, we can, get data sets. We can start programming AI, and payers can use that data to see, where certain diseases are moving, certain, how people move. There's a lot of data that can be mined and used to improve healthcare, improve, potentially improve treatment plans, anything, and emergency services. So I think the game changer would be ABDM having what people call the medical Aadhaar. And it's very difficult now because people are not moving to get the ABDM either in hospitals or personally as patients. And I think the revolution will come once people accept such, digital movements.
Yeah, please, ma'am.
When we talk about a digital hospital, I'm coming from a space where I've been doing fully digital hospitals since 2007. And the degree of digitization has changed. But we must be very careful what is our objective of creating that digital hospital. So the first advantage, to my mind, is to the patient, because we have an end-to-end document for the patient against an ID. And because there is a federated architecture that has been suggested by the government of India and put in place, the patient can be mobile and can access the data anywhere, irrespective of whether the patient is treated in her hospital, my hospital, or their hospital. So this is, to me, one of the biggest advantages, because we've all seen patients bringing hordes of scan films which are stuck to each other, can't see them, and all of that stuff. So that's number one. And we are all in this business for patients. So having said that, second is to the clinician. It is virtually impossible to remember everything about a patient, and for that matter, everything about medicine itself. So if you have the computerized decision support systems and your pre-order sets and things like that available to you, you don't have to remember unnecessary detail. Nurses, if you make their life easier, they can spend more time with the patients. So we are trying to use digitization to free up the time that the clinician and the nurses has. I mean, somebody can say, oh, they are typing all the way. Today, you do not have, technology has moved on. You have ambient listening, you have intuitive texting, all of that stuff, which is just speaking, and the computer just types everything, puts it in the structured data field, and you just have to sign at the end of the day. So technology has moved on so much that your life is very, very easy. And the third, I mean, going by the what we are supposed to talk about, the payer mechanisms. The problem that the payers have with us, whether the patient is paying out of pocket or the insurance company, they all think that the hospitals are billing wrongly, purposefully, they are charging extra. And that lack of trust that exists, that is a big problem why our payments are delayed or our payments are not given in time. So if you have timely billing and timely authorization online, give access to that patient to the payer, I think a large part of our headaches will be over. And I think there will be I would say the ecosystem will become more ethical and transparent. So I think for each stakeholder, when you define what your benefits are going to be, you can design your system accordingly.
Sure, ma'am. I think very valuable point. So once we talk about AI, I think the next challenge, which everybody across AI, is data integrity and how do we use data, because it's a sensitive stuff, and healthcare being very personal data, and naturally each individual doesn't want to share what extent he want to share the data, his health data, with the system, which I think works on AI, and AI needs data. So we have a person from regulatory aspect. How do you see, there are talks that we should regulate AI, but once we regulate something, the innovation slows down. So how do you see this and paradox of health, particularly digital health, which I think data will be very paramount and very personal also. So how do you see, where is the line, and how do you see future in terms of regulation and AI, and particularly in health scenario?
I don't know. I'm the right person to answer this question. Why? Because I'm representing pharma.
Okay.
Right. Data. When it comes to patient data, there's completely no as an organization with the regulation. So we don't handle any patient data. There is no interface with patient. Patient interface will always be with this. So I pass on this.
Yeah, maybe Dr. Abhay can throw some light. Where is the thin line between health data of individual and AI accessing it?
No, thank you. Actually, it's a global issue. Data privacy is absolutely paramount. But the answer is very simple. The answer is actually let the patient own his data as a health passbook. When we talk about ABDM and all these things, they look grand on paper. The practical utility has to be put in. When you give access of the healthcare data to the patient, he can then choose who he wants to share that data with. He can choose what data he wants to share. And then he can absolutely decide whether he wants to pass that data in order to get AI insights or not. So it is very much an individualized choice, and that has already been baked in. The second question is about AI models. The first rule is you cannot use generative AI models for healthcare, because generative AI models are actually shared data. So if you put your data into today, tomorrow someone can just Google your name and there's a chance that he might find that data.
Yeah, that's correct.
Right? So whenever we were building our own medical models, which we did for about 36 specialties. We took LLMs which were privately hosted and we trained them on our own data. It is well worth it, because once you train it, you also can then ensure that it stays abreast with the latest trends. And that is how you actually overcome regulatory hurdles. Because, in India, we just started to talk, but in UK and US, we have laws. So if you are in breach of any data, that's it. So I think that's the issue,
Before the patient's consent, patient shares data, you have to start with the consent framework when you're recording data. What is it that the patient gives you consent for? So earlier we were okay, the patient is going to get hospitalized, he's going to get treated, and then you took procedures, specific consents, and you discharge them, and story ended there. Today we are using their data. So there are multiple things in the consent framework that you have to add. One is the data, we are all just people who are entering data. So we are the data collectors. We are not, healthcare providers and nothing beyond that. Storage is on a third-party solution. Storage is done by somebody else. Now, breach of data can happen because of the negligence of the party that is doing the storage. But who is liable today in India? The healthcare provider. Okay, so these things are not clear, so you have to take consent that data will be stored there. Now, EMR is made by a technology provider. There can be errors there. You are doing telemedicine, your data, lease line, okay, your video, your network, bandwidth, whether that is all right or not. Because the prescription that you give to the patient is dependent on all these variables. And it is important that you include this in your consent framework. And then you say that I will use your de-identified data or for these purposes. If it is for research, then it is for research alone. If it's something else, and you cannot use that data for anything else, and patient can at any time in their life withdraw that consent. Other problem about allowing patients to share their data is in a country like India. They have shared smartphones in the house. So everybody in the family, their health record is on one phone. The other thing in India, we love to talk to our neighbors and say, you know what, this is what I got from the hospital. Look at this image. So the whole purpose of data privacy is beaten right there. So before we go there, and the ultimate objective of ABDM is PHR, which is the personal record, health record of every patient against the UHID, which patient will access on their palm top. That's it. But who's going to tell that patient that this is what your health data is, this is how you share it, this is when you share it? Who needs to educate them? Us. Because we are the persons who knows where misuse of the data can happen. Do we have the time? Are we spending enough time with each patient who comes to our hospital, where we create an EMR, we give them a patient portal, give them all these things? Do we spend enough time to tell them where and when and how they have to share their data? I don't think most of us do it.
May I come in, Mr.
Yeah,
Moderator?
please, ma'am.
So just on a lighter note, these days nobody wants to be very private. You know, you can see on all social media, everybody is putting, oh, I am in Nainital, I am having ice cream,
Yes.
today I am feeling low. So after some time, everybody is going to post it on, oh, I have got jaundice. So after, I think, 5 years, people will be so open, there is no need of that data privacy. They are going to tell their own self that we have got this disease. So I think we are doing it because we are supposed to do data privacy. But after 5 years, you see there is no need. Everybody wants to speak about their own problems, own challenges all the time.
It will be private public data.
Further to what ma'am said,
Yeah.
I am part of a group which has about 1,000 people on it. Today somebody posted their x-ray and all their blood tests and said, what do I do for this?
So
So I would like to add to that, right? Like India is a country where definitely when it comes, people are very, it's a very cultural thing. कि सबको बताना है, सबको करना है. But definitely in the US, HIPAA was such a major thing. I mean, Privacy Act, they're so strict. And people are very private over there. But I think just adding to the consent part, we don't even realize where all we are giving consent. For example, all our digital watches that we are wearing, that's all measuring our data. Every app we download, which takes our health data, we are clicking on it and they are the ones who are aggregating the data as well. So I think it's at a certain level, data is extremely important. It has to be. See, when a patient is sharing, we can say they don't care about the data. Like, wo unki baat kar rahe hain. But maybe a third person can be private. They don't want to tell their diagnosis of maybe a type of cancer they have. I'm just saying. So that is where that I think privacy element will come in. But I think we have to create the right data formats to start collecting in the right way. There's so much we can do in India with the data we get. I think the algorithms that will come out, the information that will come out can help save lives if done in the right way. But privacy definitely, and I also feel if people don't understand it. So completely with ma'am, जब हम data लेते हैं, लोगों को नहीं पता even how we're using the data. Not at all.
And health data, just for everyone to know, is next in sensitivity to only the defense data of the country. Because this protects your biological, genomic characteristics of the population. And if supposing all this data gets breached, you are in danger of getting extinct by the nefarious powers in the world, or the black powers in the world. Why is everybody so worried about healthcare data? It's because of this. Next, only in line to the defense.
I just, because since there is one connection where we also collect data to a third party is during the clinical trials. Right, and since the discussion is on taking consent, and I think one thing, whenever we talk about, especially an event like this, patient centricity, I always feel, see, I think every industry, from the provider perspective, we always put patient first. But putting patient first, and in true sense, keeping patients at center, sometimes we keep them in center and then we keep revolving around. We don't consult them. And why I'm saying, because during clinical trial, for example, there are a lot of patient organizations in our country now coming up. In India, we are much behind from Western countries, but now they are becoming organized. There are still patient voices. If we go and collect, take a kind of advice from them, like in India, we used to do from pharma doctors advisory boards. We have started doing patient advisory boards. And we started understanding that the way we take consent, right, there were gaps. And then they came up with a solution, because ultimately it's them who have to give consent. So we may plan things on our way, but it's always, when we talk about payer, provider, there is also a patient. And many times we talk on their behalf, taking decisions on their behalf. I think more and more we engage them. I think the solutions, what we are planning for them, becomes much closer to what they want.
No, quite insightful. So
I'll just add one last point. Actually, I'm in complete agreement with everyone. What I need to point out is the fact that there's no such thing as privacy. And there is something known as now data reconstruction. So if there are enough data points, if someone searches an anti-cancer drug, he's at the right age, in the right location, I know he's got cancer. So this is known as triangulation. There's a big concern all over the world as to how do we control data triangulation in the world of AI. I don't have an answer. I just thought I'll point it out. Privacy is no longer to be taken for granted.
No, very valuable insight and pearl of wisdom coming out, but we always have time constraint. So maybe I'll request panel to give last 1 minute recommendation in terms of how do we really unlock the value-based care, which I think Western world has quite adopted, and now it's coming up in India. Maybe very quick thought, maybe 1 minute if each one can.
So, I mean, to start with, it's a no-brainer that digitization is the way forward. I don't think that any of us, whatever we have said, it is not, even if we have said something negative about what is happening, it is only for course correction. Digitization is the only way forward for addressing all the healthcare issues that impact us. So that is important. As healthcare providers or people in the healthcare industry, it is our responsibility to do correct data entry wherever, or also to teach our people. If you are heading our hospitals, we need to make sure that every person is told the why of why they are entering the data. Because then only they will. Otherwise, so 3 baje jana hai to just do cheez, enter kar diya, star dot laga diya aur chal diye. So, just to make sure that we teach everyone, because unless we have this, we cannot really design good AI platforms. And I think that's very important. And to address all our healthcare needs, AI is going to be the largest used methodology. I mean, in the sense that over the next 5 to 8 years, I don't think we will even be talking AI, because we will be using it in everything so commonly. So this is just, we are on the cusp of that transformation, and it's important that we all take the right decisions.
Yes, so I would like to, add to that, digitization is a no-brainer. We have to go that path. And it can be a very big boon. I mean, COVID was the perfect example of what telemedicine has done. Telemedicine in a country like India can bring a lot of accessibility and affordability to healthcare. People don't have to travel for hours and hours. I think if we use the right tools in the right way, we can collect the right data. Now, Niti Aayog has a TB screening app that they use. So I think used in the right way, this is going to be the biggest boon, not for just our country, I think for the entire world. And as long as we have right guidelines intact, so that no information is misused. The problem is that half the world wants to do it in the right way, but then there are always certain elements who want to misuse that information. So I think if we do it in the right way, digitization is the way to go. I always laugh that in the future, our kids, like I have a 3.5-year-old, we don't even know they'll get married or not because virtual reality is going to be so much over there. So the point is that virtual digitization is the way forward. If done absolutely in the right way, it can be the biggest boon. And it will be as we go forward. I think people are working extremely hard, and we are seeing so many players. The market, even for you to come up with the tool that you have, I think it can be absolutely, if used in the right way, it can be such a big, I think, tool. So definitely going forward, we just have to.
I think two things. One is even from a pharma or from the drug perspective, I think technology has its own space, right? And in our country, we have to move away from the L1 concept at some point of time. Our life is we want Q1 life, but we cannot deal with L1 things, right? And somewhere I think in the whole value chain, this is something that has to come up. That our life is Q1, it's not L1. And we have been given L1 things for most of the things. That is one. Second is even, for example, again being on this forum on a patient-centered summit, in our country still, for example, concept like patient-reported outcomes, health technology assessment, right? These are still, these conversation also has to go up as we are digitalizing AI and everything, because ultimately the value story will come from those concepts, right? So I think there is a lot to be done. It's not that one road will make things clear, because ultimately it's the whole gamut of care that will take care at the end.
So from my side, I think intention is very important, what you are going to do with the data. Like my center is a pharmacovigilance authorized center of Government of India. So we are collecting data and we are sending it to them from nearby all the hospitals and all the chemists, that which drug is creating, some adverse event for the patient. And then they are using it for the benefit of the patient, rather they are just, stopping that drug and doing something else. So this is the most important thing. When we are collecting data, what is the purpose and what we are going to do? Because data can create many new things in healthcare industry, but purpose should be always right and for the human betterment of human being.
I'll just say that there needs to be pooling of resources. One of the big challenges of AI is no individual or single organization can do it. And today we have a lot of silos. We've got the pharma sector, we've got the diagnostic center, we've got hospitals, we've got clinics. And the most important component is always forgotten, which is the patient. So today's conference to me is something, and we absolutely excellent start that we are starting to talk about a patient. And every stakeholder in healthcare should actually come across a table to start talking about how there is a cohesive ecosystem which only serves the patient. All your benefits can be secondary. But once you start talking about it across, I think India's got a huge potential to be a health superpower.
I would just like to add to what Dr. Chopra said is, whoever we are, big, small, whatever, we ourselves are patients. We can be the best doctor in town, but at the end of the day, we are also patients. So everybody needs to think, what benefits me as a patient? Because that's where the center starts. As a patient, what do I need? What should be done for a patient? Once we start thinking in those terms, I think it becomes much easier in getting regulations in place, talking about consents, talking about data privacy. All those things comes with it once everybody starts thinking as a patient.
Thank you. I think quite insightful discussion, and I would like to thank the esteemed panelists for giving. And I would end with a slightly lighter note. We say Siri, Alexa, if they have to improve, they have to hear it. There is no second way. They cannot improve until they hear it, whether you like it or not. So I hope this gives a good message. I would like to thank the audience, very lovely audience, and engaging. So thank you so much.